Bonjour Maxime. Hi
Bonjour.
Maxime. How are you?
I'm pretty much okay.
Yeah.
It's very good to be here at Saint-Jean-de-Luz.
Good.
Yeah, it's like, as I said in the introduction to the film, I like being near the sea. It reminds me of my hometown, Odessa. So yeah.
Maxime, you're in Saint-Jean-de-Luz to present Butterfly Vision. It's your first feature film. What made you want to be a director first?
Oh, well, I would say there wasn't a direct intention. It was more like um, complex of my intention just to be somewhere in the art sphere and just me being in the right place at the right time, for example. So I just back in my teen years, I would just go to the acting school and also discover different films that I like. I discovered that I love author cinema more than commercial films. I discovered also even author Ukrainian films like Kira Muratova or Sergei Parajanov, and I was really fascinated by that. And also, I thought maybe of entering the university to act there, but I was also taking part in one TV quiz for kids, and the producer of that TV quiz, he was also teaching directing in the university, and he said to me and one more friend of mine with whom we are still friends for more than half of our lives, he said, I believe that you two you can actually be a directors, and we were in the last year of our school, and he offered just to visit his lectures which he would teach to his students. So we just every weekend we would come to Kiev and listen to his lectures on directing, on history of theater and history of cinema. And we just, that's how we understood that directing is the most universal way of being attached to the art. And also it's like for lazy people, you know, I cannot film with my hands. The picture, if I take the camera, the pictures are really bad as well. I can try a lot, but it still be either out of focus, out of exposure, anything. But if I tell it to someone, it'll be good. Acting, I don't know. I mean, I really love acting, but I think when I see myself in the shot, I don't like it also.
I know the feeling.
So yes, but when you are directing, it's like, in a good way, everyone is doing your job instead of you, and you're like behind it, and so everyone is cool. Thanks.
You mentioned being at the right place, the right time. Is that why you started by directing a documentary?
Oh yeah. Also, it wasn't like an intention. It just a year before the revolution on Maidan and the start of the war, me and my friends who had recently graduated from the university, we worked for a couple of years on different TV projects and just understood that we want to make our own projects, be independent, and also we were quite young, 22, 23 years old, but the grandmother of one friend of mine, she not even told us, but did a comment to us, you should register a company, I'll teach you everything, you'd be grateful to me in a couple of years. And we were actually, and so we registered and launched that company, being a bit unfamiliar still, but in a year, revolution and war burst out, and we understood, it was also very spontaneous that we wanted to take part in it, but mostly as the filmmakers, because it felt the most natural and organic way to us. And eventually, from some of the footage we had shot, some films would appear And for example, the first film of our production company that my friends made, it was called School Number 3. It was made totally voluntarily, without any financing, but it got to Berlinale generation.
Wow.
And yeah, that's how it all started. So it was also kind of course, our work was in that, our intention to make films was in that, but also a coincidence of being just at the right in the right place at the right time, and just being aware, being observing what's going on around you, and taking action.
Did the fact that you made the documentaries help or influence the way you shot Butterfly Vision?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I think even if you ask me like about my preferences in cinema, first titles that would come to my mind would be the documentaries, to be honest. And that also influenced definitely the approach and some understanding of me that like I have a deep belief that each film and each work of art in general, no matter how, like, you know, fantasy or science fiction or experimental or abstract it is, it has its roots in the reality. It comes from because the artists exist in the reality. And true art, in my belief, it is aware of its origin and contributes back to the reality. So I would say probably documentaries, they did have an influence on Butterfly Vision, and we even had a lot of references while researching and developing the film, both in terms of visuals and acting and manner of narration. We referred a lot to different documentaries.
Is it because we're mentioning reality and fiction? Does it feel like reality or fiction to be here presenting your film while the war is happening in your country?
Oh, well, it doesn't feel like fiction, I would say. It feels real, but it feels like you feel more the complexity of reality and the multi-layeredness of the reality, and that is also the approach that the documentaries taught me also, because in documentaries you would see direct protagonists and antagonists much more seldom than in fiction films, and you wouldn't see very often something 100% good and 100% bad, as it's more as like some fiction films tend to be made like that. And yeah, that is the approach we also used while making Butterfly Vision, you know, just to understand that life and the reality are always much wider than anyone can imagine and anyone can think of it. And that's the same like being somewhere abroad at the festivals or elsewhere. It's just it's good to see that the life is going on, but it's like sometimes you just either need to open yourself up to bear these different realities, which are just actually part of one reality and actually one cycle. And the hardest thing is to realize these ties and to keep them. And when you manage to keep them, it's really, it becomes easier. Actually, you don't get, you know, frustrated or irritated or derealized by the contrast you see. You just perceive it as a whole.
Should you tell to our viewers what the film is about? What would you say?
I would say that this is a story of a female soldier in Ukraine that has gone through certain traumatic experiences, but despite that, she fights for her own vision of her life and fights for still being in charge of her life.
So the film was shot before the war, but now it feels like the story is a metaphor of what's happening. It's a country who is fighting for, so for the possibility to write its own story. So is it weird for you to see that, everything that you wanted to put in the movie now reflects another reality?
Well, it's like war before, since 2014, was just, localized and was very distant for both for the outer world and even for Europeans. So a lot of Ukrainians, due to our soldiers, had the privilege not to notice that the war is going on. But for the people who were, aware and who were in touch with the context of war, it was obvious that the escalation and the big war, the full-scale invasion, which happened in the beginning of 2022, is inevitable. And but still, no one could imagine the scale and the depth of the atrocities, just because that's how the human mind works, probably, that you can be aware of something, you can be prepared to something on the mind level, but not on the emotional level. So, for example, just the things that we some points and some topics and some scenes, some sides of the film really got actualized much more. That hit us hard, but at the same time we understood then that everything we are talking about in the film, it refers not only to our past and to dealing with the consequences of the past, but to our future. And it talks and it is trying to reflect all the challenges we are going to face in the closest future, and we should be also aware and prepared.
And this is going to be my last question, and it's going to be maybe naive, but do you think that cinema can change the world?
I don't think cinema can change the world. Cinema can just change one human, probably. And then the tie and the path from one human till all the world, that is the disputable way. And at the same time, cinema just can bring this understanding and I don't know, not maybe compassion or maybe just perception on the not only on informational level, but on the emotional and on the contextual and on the sensual level. And that is also, maybe cinema is just a way for us to keep thinking, what is it to be a human? So, yeah.
And it's good enough.
Probably, hopefully, yeah.
Thank you so much, Maksym.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Patrick.
very, very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.